one of the things that I wish we would have learned, earlier is to think of other agencies less as like people you're at odds with and more like good friends of yours that you like competing, on the field with. And so to look for those opportunities to teach each other, push each other to make the entire industry better, to share, leads with each other when something that comes across your desk that isn't the right fit, but another group might do better with it, or you've got a conflict of interest there or something like that. And so that's one of the things that I feel like you learn as your career moves on.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from turning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, agency owners are entrepreneurs, and more often than not, start their marketing agency because they see an area where they can improve and do better. Sometimes that's from within a different agency, and sometimes that's from within a brand that was using agencies. But going from being a client of an agency to actually owning and growing an agency of your own is challenging. Where do you start? What are some of the unique challenges and how can you overcome them? That's exactly what David Mink is going to talk to us about. As the CEO of Avalaunch Media, a full service marketing agency, David leads a team of talented and passionate professionals and fractional CMOs who help clients achieve their online marketing goals. With over 11 years of experience in this role and over 14 years in the industry, he's developed a deep understanding of the ever-changing digital landscape and the best strategies to optimize performance and results. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Appreciate the invitation and looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before you launched your agency, you were contracting other agencies as part of an e-commerce brand. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, no, it's a fun story. In my undergraduate days, I had actually worked at a business that offered business consulting for internet marketing entrepreneurs, and I had landed a job on a hotline where I was getting questions from people who were in the midst of trying to find a supplier, build out a website, market a website that they had recently built, all of those things. And so this was a great kind of incubator for me. I just got sort of baptized in internet marketing and entrepreneurialism at a pretty young age, which for me was all brand new. My dad was military, so I kind of had never really thought about the prospect of owning a business. But as I was working this hotline, I was talking to people every day who were in the process of doing that, and kind of caught fire by it. Just really enjoyed the whole process. As part of that, decided, hey, I should throw my hat in this ring, and so me and a couple of college buddies actually started a custom mattress company. We called it Rocky Mountain Mattress, being here from Salt Lake City area. And so that company gave us an opportunity to work with agencies. I actually, shortly after starting Rocky Mountain Mattress, I actually began law school. And so the first year of law school, the business was kind of sleepy. Frankly, we'd only really get business if somebody referred somebody our way or something like that. But starting my second year of law school, we actually started to rank on the first page of Google for custom mattress, memory foam mattress, RV mattress, all these different terms. And so I quickly had like a legitimate business. And so, my second and third year of law school, I probably spent more time in empty, classrooms fielding mattress calls than maybe anything else. So through that process, we just had an opportunity to work with a lot of different consultants and agencies. And I'd say that we were probably heavier on the consultant side than, like a true agency, a lot of one-man bands or one-woman bands, but we had like an independent contractor that did a lot of the design and development work on our website. We had several different, kind of SEO, either consultants or small agencies that might help us with things like link building or something along those lines. So that opportunity was kind of my early introduction into working with others to do things that either I didn't want to do or couldn't do myself.
Got it. Got it. So you'd done e-commerce, you'd done retail, you'd worked with all kinds of different agencies and consultants. So you had that familiarity with marketing agencies. Why was it a challenge for you to start and build an agency of your own?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and honestly, Mike, I'd say that not that there weren't challenges, and there were certainly a lot of challenges, and we can get into those, but I actually looked at it more as an opportunity than anything else because we had had a variety of experiences. I felt like to a degree we had a fingerprint on what was a good experience and not such a good experience. And I maybe tell you that the catalyst for starting our own agency was we had started that custom mattress company in the mid 2000s. And when 2008 rolled around, obviously it affected that company pretty severely just because people were buying mattresses for toys. It was for cabins, boats, RVs, things like that. And so with the economy downturn, there weren't nearly as many people spending money on, those kinds of recreational vehicles and whatnot. And so we were actually looking for additional income, and we thought, man, we sure have learned a lot about internet, marketing and e-commerce. Maybe we'll do some consulting. And the thought process was, we know exactly what to offer because this is what we've been doing for the last several years, on the other side of the table. And so I'd first of all say it was a great opportunity because we had had so many experiences that I think kind of paved the way. In terms of challenges, some of the things to figure out were most of the people we had worked with really had one lane. They just knew SEO or just knew web design and development, or maybe just did advertising. And we had a vision of that was kind of painful from our perspective because we had to constantly have these broken record conversations. You'd get off a meeting with somebody on Monday explaining what you were up against, what you were trying to achieve. You'd have another meeting on Wednesday, and you kind of have to go right back around and have that same conversation. And so as part of what my partners and I wanted to build, we really wanted to build a full service agency that could give people like ourselves an opportunity to work with one group that understood your brand, your story, understood me as an individual, what's kind of my love language when it comes to communication and relationships and all of that, and not have to have such a game of telephone all the time. And so I'd say that the biggest challenge was effectively building out a full service agency where you could simultaneously offer a very high level service, but also do enough of the core pillars of marketing that you effectively could offer that one stop shop. And that certainly is all about talented people. It's about being able to bring the right people your way. And so a lot of challenges in the early days of when do we have enough money to hire the next key person, and how are we going to kind of balance that supply and demand game and talent game.
Yeah. So, and to your point, when you're starting off, you can't possibly do everything that there is to be done in marketing. You've got to bring in the right people, and I imagine then that meant that you focused, like you said, on some very very core and specific solutions or directions. Could you articulate how you started that? Like what specifically services were you offering initially, and how did you kind of grow or expand as you went?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I'd say that the marketing pillar that we at our core understood the best and could kind of deliver on a personal basis was SEO. That's where we had really won with our custom mattress company. And so that was the first pillar of marketing that we hung our hat out there of, hey, we do this kind of work. Let us know if you'd like some help with your SEO. We had an understanding that the very first additional service offering that we'd like to bring on would be paid. because there's such a powerful relationship between paid advertising and SEO. A lot of times your best keyword research, can be what's happening on the paid side, some of your best audience
Yeah.
research, et cetera. So that was our number two. And frankly, the way that happened is we actually worked with another agency. They had, you know, they ended up dissolving down the road, and we actually had an opportunity to pick up one of the folks that we had worked with previously. So we had personal experience, and they really understood us great, because at one point we had been their client, and now they worked at our agency.
Got it. Yeah, and I like that approach, that overarching approach, because you make a really strong argument that it's just so much easier to work with one agency who can handle virtually everything that I might need as a business versus having to work with 4 or 5 different consultants. So I think a lot of folks who might be listening who are very focused on a specific niche right now, but maybe thinking about and entertaining that idea of growing and expanding, that's a very great approach that you've taken. Have that core competency and then expand from there. Do some aqua hires or whatever you need to do to bring in the right folks. At what point did you feel like this is working? This is successful. And could you share some examples of maybe some of those early successes that you had with clients?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll piggyback off your last question too. The next kind of core group of people that we started hiring was actually creatives, and
Hmm.
it wasn't to offer creative services because people were looking for new branding or something like that. We had actually found that one of the most effective SEO tactics that we were using back at this time was creating, really great data visualizations. And so we'd actually found a really fantastic designer, a really fantastic kind of research slash writer who was, in that cusp of things that are pop culture, very interesting or proprietary, et cetera. And so we kind of developed this little niche for being able to create content that had the potential to, quote unquote, go viral, right? Or at least really pick up some attention from other websites for link building opportunities, or get a little bit of social attention. And so that, bridging onto your question of like, when did we kind of feel like we had made it? Um, we actually started being hired, not necessarily just by like individual business owners, but we actually started being hired by big agencies. Some of the bigger agencies in the digital marketing sphere at that time, I don't know if any of these names are familiar to you, but like SEO.com or OrangeSoda.com, Internet Marketing Inc. Back in those days, these were some of the bigger shops around, and they actually started hiring us to white label work with their enterprise clients. And a lot of what we were doing is building out these data visualization, strategies and infographics, and we got into PowerPoint presentations early before there were a lot of tools like Canva and things like that. And so, to when did we feel like we made it? We kind of felt like we made it once we realized, hey, we're actually the agency behind the work for these big agencies, enterprise clients. And that really led us to actually deciding to get serious about what we were doing. We actually decided to flip the script. Instead of having the mattress company as our 80% and doing a little bit of consulting on the side, we actually flipped that around. And so we ended up selling the mattress company and then going all in on a marketing agency. In 2012, we actually came up with the name Avalaunch Media, and opened our first office here in Salt Lake versus working from, our homes and basements. Brought in our first couple full-time employees to work at the office, all of that. And so, yeah, I think that's when we felt like, you know what, we're there, we're legit. The best agencies in the world are using us to work with their top tier clients.
That is fantastic. What a great moment. Folks, we're talking with David Mink about transitioning from agency client to agency owner. And I've got a few more questions for him. But before I get to those, a quick word about social media reporting using Agorapulse.
I actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agora Pulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agora Pulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agora Pulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So, Dave, if you could go back to 2012 when you went all in on Avalaunch, or maybe even earlier than that, and talk to that younger Dave Mink, what advice would you give him? What would you think that he needed to do maybe differently to launch the agency and propel you even further?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind is, I think something I've learned over the years is just how important your network is, not just with like business owners and people that are CMOs and directors of marketing at other companies, but also with your competition, right? Like your friendly competitors. And so one of the things that I wish we would have learned, earlier is to think of other agencies less as like people you're at odds with and more like good friends of yours that you like competing, on the field with. And so to look for those opportunities to teach each other, push each other to make the entire industry better, to share, leads with each other when there's something that comes across your desk that isn't the right fit, but another group might do better with it, or you've got a conflict of interest there or something like that. And so that's one of the things that I feel like you learn as your career moves on, and the earlier you can learn that, probably the better.
That is absolutely fantastic advice. I'm sure everybody listening would agree that that's the right mindset to have. And coming from not so much the agency perspective myself as just social media in general, that's one of the things that I've always been pleased and impressed with that approach that our industry has. I have so many friends and colleagues in this space, and we so seldom look at each other as competition, even though at a technical level we probably are. But I want to talk to you about your clients because you've been doing this for a long time. Some of the folks listening, they maybe just started this year or within the last couple of years, and they might have a habit of letting clients do whatever clients want to do, and we know that's not the right approach for long-term success and for our mental health and that sort of thing. So, in your opinion, what shouldn't clients do? What might get them fired? And can you share an
Hmm.
example?
Yeah, Mike, it's a good question, and it's such a fine line. I mean, honestly, I will tell you our approach as an agency is very much kind of old school with the client is always right to a degree, right? And so I will say that we definitely lead with um, you're the boss, right? And we want to be known for excellent customer service and all of that. However, over the years, again, one of the things that you get better at is pushing back on people, being a challenger when you need to. And so one of the first things I would say is that I've found that probably the key skill that the best agency people have is that ability to be extremely likable, and for the client to feel like this is a friend, someone who has my back, but also just like your favorite friends, someone who calls me on my BS and will challenge me when that needs to happen. And so if you're a client, a few of the things that maybe we can categorize in that BS category is, there are clients that'll try to steal your employees, right? Come after people. Don't put up with that if you're an agency and something like that happens. I mean, that's definitely a deal breaker. So many business people in general just look at contracts as like one way deals, that it's only there to protect them, but they don't mind breaking it. And so, I over the years, I really have found that people who think seriously about what they're signing and then assign themselves to live by it is a big deal. And again, I think that's one of those areas you can call people on and challenge them if they're going outside of the contract. Um, you've got to be a good communicator. It doesn't matter if you're the client and the other group's the agency. You can't expect good service and you can't expect to win if you're ghosting people, failing to respond to things with adequate, thought, etc. And then the last thing that I would say is sometimes there's just the wrong person in a seat, and I think it's your job as an agency person to point that out. And so some common examples are is oftentimes you'll find that a business might let marketing roll up to like a head of business development or maybe a chief operations officer, but frankly that individual just doesn't understand marketing. And anytime you just kind of sit there quietly when somebody's ordering off a menu they don't understand and maybe ordering a meal that isn't what they're expecting to receive. You've got to raise your hand and make sure that you're helping somebody inside the organization know in a tactful way that they probably should rethink how marketing is rolling up inside their organization.
So tell me how your fractional CMO services play into that kind of a situation.
Yeah, so what we found now is one of our key questions early in conversations with a new potential customer is I just ask them, tell me about your organizational chart. How does marketing actually sit inside your company? Who's responsible for it? Who do they have underneath them? What's their background, et cetera? And then you always want to try and talk to the highest person on that marketing totem pole that you can. um, and this goes back to that challenger mindset. If we determine that marketing is rolling up to somebody who probably is going to struggle with an agency relationship, then we're just very verbal about it. Hey, we've been doing this for decades. Um, I've kind of seen this movie a few times. Here's what I would advise you not to do. Don't just hire an agency thinking that they can solve all the gaps that you have in your organization. You need to make sure that you've got an executive, somebody with an executive seat, even if that's on a fractional basis. And so the way that our company positions itself in the marketplace, when that's the case, when we have a company who we can tell they don't have strong executive marketing leadership, is we suggest to them versus a standard marketing agency relationship, we would propose that you look at a fractional led agency backed relationship. And so it's the best of both worlds. You're getting a qualified fractional chief marketing officer who can come in, help you establish all your baselines, help you hire the internal team you might need, but really actually create a marketing plan that the executive team buys off on and then manage to that executive plan. And then the reality is most fractional CMOs out there in the marketplace are one man bands or women, right? It's just a one
Mhm.
person show. They have to then go get help from independent contractors, et cetera, to get a lot done. And that's what we help companies understand is we have the best of both worlds. We have a room of fractional CMOs, but they have 50 colleagues behind them that are agency people so that they can actually get their hands dirty as a group and implement an SEO strategy if that needs to be done, et cetera. And so that's the way we approach that.
I love that because you're absolutely right. When you're talking to a business that's in this situation, they're in this situation because they have gaps to fill. from leadership to actual technicians and strategists within the marketing department. And when they're talking to Avalaunch, obviously they can bring in the leadership, but they can also plug in all the other holes that are necessary all at once. And because you're providing all those things, there's that nice streamlined sense of communication that's happening constantly. It's not, I'm the fractional CMO, oh, and I'm also outsourcing to a completely different agency that's just a paycheck. They don't necessarily report to me. Yeah, that sounds like a much, much more streamlined and effective approach. So thanks for sharing that. David, you've been fantastic. For folks who want to learn more or reach out to you to connect, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is, our website or LinkedIn would be the two things that come to mind. You can obviously find our company at avalaunchmedia.com. You can reach me on LinkedIn, David Mink. I do have a Twitter and all of that, but I'm a lot more active on LinkedIn than anywhere else.
Terrific. Thank you, David. We'll have all of David's links in the show notes below. Thank all of you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition on Apple and drop us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.